Get ready for this super exciting Islamic science quiz challenge. You'll be answering 35 fun and challenging questions, but watch out, the timer is ticking. For each question, you'll only have 7 seconds to answer. Let's see how many you can guess correctly. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming quizzes. Now, let's begin! What does the Quran describe as a barrier between salty and fresh water? Al-Bahr, Furat, Barzakh. Barzakh in Surah Al-Furqan 2553 refers a barrier between salty and fresh water. Scientists say that there is a barrier for salt and fresh water called halocline that prevents them from merging. Which part of the human development process is described in Surah Al-Mu'minun? DNA structure, embryonic stages, or cell division? Embryonic stages. In Surah Al-Mu'minun 23:14 explains about the structural growth of a human body, which medical science named it embryonic stage. Which heavenly body is described in the Quran as reflection of light? The moon, the stars, the sun. The moon. It says in Surah Nuh 71:16 and Surah Yunus 10:5 that Allah made the moon a reflected light. According to the Quran, what is the role of the clouds in rainfall? Clouds are decorations. Rain forms without clouds. Clouds carry water. Clouds carry water. Quran 24:43 describes cloud formation, merging, and rainfall, matching meteorological understanding. Which surah describes the alternation of day and night? Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Ali Imran, Surah An-Naba. Surah Al-Baqarah. The alternation of day and night is described in Surah Yunus 10:6 and Surah Al-Furqan 25:62. What is described in the Quran as layers of darkness? Night, womb development, space. Womb development. The verse in Surah Az-Zumar 39:6 states, He created you in the wombs of your mothers in stages, one development after another, in 3 layers of darkness. These 3 layers of darkness are the abdominal wall, uterine wall, and amniotic membrane. What is the Quranic term for the layers of the earth or sky? Taqat, qawarir, sama'. Sama, the Quran frequently uses the term as-samawat wal-ard, which translates to the heavens and the earth. Scientists confirm that the earth's interior is composed of a core, mantle, and crust, while the atmosphere consists of the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and exosphere. What element mentioned in the Quran is described as sent down to earth? Gold, iron, copper, iron. Iron is mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Hadid, specifically in verse 57:25. Some scientists argue that iron was life's earliest and sole transition metal, and that the availability of iron played a crucial role in the development of life on Earth. Which Quranic verse refers to the orbits of planets and stars? Surah Yasin, Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Yasin. Verse 40 of Surah Yasin 36:40 mentions the orbital motion of celestial bodies. An orbit is the path a celestial body or object follows as it moves around another object due to gravity. According to the Quran, what do the mountains do to the earth? Provide water, stabilize it, beautify it. Stabilize it. The Quran uses metaphors to describe mountains as pegs or anchors that stabilize the earth. For example, have we not made the earth as a bed and the mountains as pegs? Surah An-Naba 78:6-7. What Quranic term refers to the orbits of celestial bodies? Falak, Qamar, Kursi. Falak. The Arabic word falak used in verse 36:40 of the Quran, which can mean orbit or sphere. What Quranic term refers to the darkness in the depth of the oceans? ظلمات, بحر, سماء. ظلمات. In Surah An-Nur, this term describes a state of such darkness as the depth of the ocean. Scientists state that the ocean's depth, particularly below 1,000 meters, are characterized by complete darkness due to the lack of sunlight penetration, forming the aphotic zone, where life adapts to extreme conditions. What aspect of fetal development is mentioned in the Quran? DNA, bone formation, gender selection. Bone formation. The Quran describes fetal development, specifically in Surah Al-Mu'minun 23:12-14, detailing the stages of creation followed by bone and flesh formation and ultimately a new creation. What celestial body is referred to as a burning lamp? The sun, the moon, a star. The sun. The verse 71:16 describes the moon as a light and the sun as a burning lamp. The sun is a massive, nearly perfect sphere of hot plasma, radiating the energy from its surface mainly as visible light and infrared radiation, with 10% at ultraviolet energies. What material did Allah mention He created humans from? Sand, smoke, clay. Clay. According to the Quran, humans, including the first man Adam alayhi salam, were created from clay and dust, and verily, I created man from a dry, baked clay. Quran 15:28. What does the Quran mention as a source of healing for humans? Honey, dates, coconut. Honey. It has a special significance as the Holy Quran denotes it as a cure for mankind. It states in chapter 16, Surah An-Nahl, the chapter of the bee, verses 69-70. Scientists attribute honey's curing characteristics to its antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and antioxidant properties. What natural force does the Quran mention that causes ships to sail? Wind, currents, gravity. Wind. In Surah Al-Dhariyat is the Quranic chapter that prominently features the concept of winds. Wind helps a ship sail by creating a pressure difference across the sails. Which verse suggests the Big Bang Theory? Surah Yasin, Surah Al-Anbiya, Surah Ar-Rahman. Surah Al-Anbiya. Surah Al-Anbiya chapter 21 verse 30 as potentially suggesting the reference of the Big Bang Theory, which states that the universe originated from a single point and expanded rapidly. The Big Bang is a physical theory that describes how the universe expanded from an initial state of high density and temperature. Which element is described as fertilization and pollination? Water, fire, wind. Wind. Quran 15:22 mentions fertilizing winds, reflecting what we know about wind pollination today. What plant is named in the Quran for both food and oil? Date, olive, fig. Olive. In Surah At-Tin and Surah Al-Mu'minun, where Allah swears by the fig and the olive and mentions a tree from Mount Sinai that produces oil and food. Which Quranic verse is often interpreted as describing Earth's roundness? Surah Al-Nazi'at, Surah Al-A'raf, Surah Al-Anbiya. Surah Al-Nazi'at. A practical demonstration of Earth's sphericity was achieved by Ferdinand Magellan and Juan Sebastian Elcano's circumnavigation. What oceanographic concept is described in the Quran? Internal waves, black holes, tides. Internal waves. The Quran 24-40 uses the metaphor of waves upon waves to describe the darkness and depth of the ocean, which some interpret as a description of internal waves, a scientific phenomena only recently understood. What bodily feature is described in the Quran as unique to each person? Eye color, fingerprints, height. Fingerprints. In Surah Al-Qiyamah 75:3-4 mentions that Allah can reconstruct the bones and even the very tips of the fingers in perfect order. The ridges on your fingertips, which create fingerprints, are formed in weeks 10 to 15 of the fetus time in the womb. What substance is said to be the source of all life? Water, fire, air. Water. The Quran states that we made from water every living thing, Surah Al-Anbiya 21:30. Water is a chemical compound H2O that is vital for life. It has the ability to reproduce and grow. According to the Quran, what protects the earth from harmful celestial bodies? Magnetic field, sky as a protected ceiling, clouds. Sky as a protected ceiling. In Surah Al-Anbiya 21:32, the sky is referred to as a protected ceiling or guarded roof. Scientifically, the Earth's sky, or rather its atmosphere, acts as a protective ceiling, shielding us from harmful solar radiation, extreme temperatures, and space debris. Which insect is detailed in the Quran for its social structure? Ant, fly, spider. Ant. In Surah An-Naml, the ants were mentioned as a colonized species. Scientists discovered that ants exhibit a highly organized social structure, with colonies typically consisting of a queen, drones, and workers, each with specialized roles and behaviors that contribute to the colony's survival and success. Which material is referred to in the Quran as a blessing in clothing? Cotton, silk, wool. Silk. In the Quran, silk is described as a reward for the believers in paradise. Silk is a natural protein fiber. It's primarily composed of fibroin and sericin, with the best known source being the cocoons of the Bombyx mori silkworm. What Quranic verse refers to the earth being suspended in space? Surat Al-A'raf, Surat Al-Zukhruf, Surat Yasin. Surat Al-Zukhruf. In Surat Al-Zukhruf, Allah implies stability and balance of heavenly bodies, which some interpret as referring to the earth's suspension. Which surah alludes to the earth's suspension in space? Surat Al-Hijr, Surat Al-Ikhlas, Surat Al-Baqarah. Surat Al-Hijr. In Surat Al-Hijr 15, 19-20, interpreted the earth as being spread out and mountains placed on it, with everything growing in perfect balance. What is the Quranic term used for the stars that guide travelers? Al-Nujum, Al-Kawakib, Al-Qamar. Al-Nujum. The Quran mentions stars as signs and guidance for people. Stars have long served as navigational guides, particularly the North Star in the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Cross in the Southern Hemisphere. Which Quranic verse refers to the Earth's atmosphere providing protection from harmful radiation? Surat Al-Anbiya, Surat Al-A'raf, Surat Al-Mulk. Surat Al-Anbiya. In Surat Al-Anbiya, verse 21-32 says that, and we made the sky a protected roof, yet still they turn away from our signs. Earth's atmosphere, particularly the ozone layer in the stratosphere and the ionosphere in the thermosphere, protect us from harmful solar radiation and other space dangers. Which part of the Quran refers to the earth being stable due to mountains? Surat Al-Baqarah, Surat Al-A'raf, Surat Al-Naba. Surat Al-Naba. According to the Quran, mountains maintain the stability of the earth from shaking. Modern geology suggests that mountains, formed by tectonic plate collisions, are the result of, rather than a stabilizer for, Earth's crust. Which Quranic verse emphasizes the importance of water as the source of life? Surat Al-Baqarah, Surat Al-Rahman, Surat Al-Mulk. Surat Ar-Rahman. Water is essential for life, serving as a fundamental source for all living things, from humans to plants and animals, and is crucial for maintaining ecosystems and supporting human activities. What Quranic term refers to the stabilizing force like gravity? Falak, Rawasi, Mizan. Rawasi. The term Rawasiya is often interpreted as referring to the mountains or anchors that hold the earth in place, which is also understood as a reference to gravity. Which of the following is an example of an early Islamic medical practice? Acupuncture, vaccination, bloodletting. Bloodletting. Bloodletting or phlebotomy, the practice of removing blood for therapeutic reasons, was a common medical practice from antiquity until the 19th century, based on the belief that imbalances in bodily fluids, humors, caused illness. How many did you get right? Comment down below and make sure to like and subscribe. Assalamu alaykum.